Joining us right now on the line is Susan Ferrecio with the Washington Examiner, congressional correspondent, an all-around nice gal. Hello, Susan.
Hey, that's a very nice compliment.
It also has the merit of being true. Susan, we wanted to have you on today because there was news yesterday. Listen to this little soundbite from Robert Menendez, senator from New Jersey. He says he didn't do nothing no-how, and he will be proved innocent.
For nearly 3 years, I've lived under a Justice Department cloud. And today, I'm outraged that this cloud has not been lifted. I'm outraged that prosecutors at the Justice Department were tricked into starting this investigation 3 years ago with false allegations by those who have a political motive to silence me. But I will not be silenced.
Well, he's been hit with 14 counts of corruption, but as you hear there, a very strong defense, suggesting that he didn't do anything wrong. How's this going to affect him as a senator? He had to step down from his committee yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, there's no rule in the Senate requiring that, but I think that the leadership probably encouraged him to voluntarily give up his seat as the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's played a really prominent role in Congress on foreign policy. He was the chairman before Republicans took over. So it's going to be difficult for him now as someone who is really a leader in the Senate to have to sort of take a back seat to all the action, especially given the talks right now in Iran on the nuclear deal and other big issues, ISIS and all this other stuff that he was really played a big role in all that. And I think he'll still want to have something to say, but it's just, I think everyone's wondering exactly, how significant or important a role he can really play right now. For example, there's a big piece of legislation that's going to be debated likely pretty soon in the Senate. It's got his name on it, and what it would do is it would require Congress to approve any deal that is struck with Iran on a nuclear production of nuclear material. So it's called the Corker-Menendez bill. The other senator is Bob Corker of Tennessee. Some people think, we need to take his name off this because he's under a cloud of suspicion right now that he's been indicted on corruption charges. So it's things like that everybody's really wondering about. As you heard yesterday, he said, I'm not going anywhere. He was very defiant. He says he has done nothing wrong, but this indictment is lengthy. It's detailed. It suggests at the very least he's going to have to spend an awful lot of time defending himself. I mean, these are serious charges. He can end up in jail. And it's happened before, so it's not like he's, going to walk away from this scot-free. He's going to have to spend a lot of time on it. And so I have a feeling he'll be a bit sidelined in the Senate.
And Susan Ferrecio, that cloud you talk about that sort of colors whatever legislation may bear his name and the fact that he might be sidelined on some of these issues, a lot of people around town are suggesting, well, maybe that was the point of these charges. And listen, I'm not defending the guy. I have no idea one way or the other whether he did what he's accused of doing. But it is true that over the last several months, he has been an incredibly outspoken critic of the president's foreign policy with regard to Cuba and with regard to Iran and with regard to our relationship with Israel. He's been one of the very few Democrats to be vocal about that. Are people within the corridors of the Capitol sort of whispering to each other, geez, wonder if this was a message being sent to Menendez?
Yeah, absolutely. We started asking this a few weeks ago when the word was first leaked by the Justice Department to the media that this indictment was coming down. I talked to many senators who questioned the timing of all this. Look what's happening right now with this emerging nuclear deal that's getting so much backlash, bipartisan backlash on Capitol Hill. Suddenly, the loudest critic in the Democratic side is getting an indictment handed down on him. So, I've talked to many members of the Senate who said, this is fishy. The timing of this is very peculiar. But, again, they've laid out this indictment that's full of all the facts are there for anyone to read. So he's going to have to defend himself against those. But, of course, the timing of this is very interesting. And, of course, you have to ask that question. Is this a vindictive move by the Obama administration?
They would never do such a thing.
No, they would never. But so while you have this going over here with Robert Menendez, a critic of the administration, there is a woman who has been, a soldier for the administration in the name of Lois Lerner, the person who was apparently the go-to contact over at the IRS for anybody who wanted to find out about Tea Party funding and IRS investigations into Tea Party. She was the sort of the clearinghouse for all that. And the question has been raised about whether or not she was helping the administration use the IRS as sort of a weapon against their political opponents. And she was brought before Congress. She was asked questions. She refused. Well, she gave a statement and then refused to go any further. And they found her in contempt of Congress. The long and short of it is now Ronald Machen, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, has decided he's not even going to bother to take a contempt citation from Congress before a grand jury. He says there's no there.
Right. So what we're doing, we're waiting to hear, all the Capitol Hill reporters. How is the House Oversight Committee going to respond to this? Are they going to pursue charges further, given, what your guest was saying earlier, that she did give a lengthy interview to the Justice Department? And how does that affect the legality of her deciding not to talk to Congress? That wasn't mentioned at all. That was one of the big gaping holes in the letter yesterday that was sent to Speaker Boehner. So there are huge questions. Will they bother going after her further, or will they turn their attention to these missing emails that have resurfaced? Don't forget, a couple months ago, the IRS suddenly found about 30,000 emails that were thought to be long gone. Those are being examined. What kind of information is in there? What Congress wants to know is, was there a real connection between the IRS as an agency and the Obama administration in terms of orchestrating what happened with these conservative groups? Lois Lerner was thought to be that important link, and they haven't been able to talk to her about it, and it's just been very frustrating. The question is, how do they get the info if she's not going to talk to them? These emails may provide some of that information, but it's a waiting game right now. But I am curious to know whether the House Oversight Committee will let this drop with Lerner, or if they're going to try to do this another way.
But there is sort of this thing. I mean, as a reporter, I know you've seen this in other cases where, if there's a question about whether or not something happened, what you do is you take the evidence to the grand jury and you let the grand jury decide. And
right.
And there was I would say, a political decision made here. Oh, we're not going to bother the grand jury with that. In our infinite wisdom, we know that this doesn't even meet the standard. Well, the House of Representatives respectfully disagrees.
That's right. And it was interesting that they decided not to take it to a grand jury, because one does wonder whether a grand jury would have thought differently about whether she should have talked to Congress. And that is a huge question. Frankly, I'm not surprised. I'm sure you're not surprised that, the Obama administration's Justice Department is not going to agree with the Congress on this. This has been, in some ways, a big political battle between the Obama administration and the Republican-led House Oversight Committee on this whole IRS matter. Don't forget, they think there's nothing there. There's no, the president has said himself that he doesn't think there's any scandal, that this is, something that should be dropped. So I'm not surprised, and I would have been shocked, frankly, if they did find that she was in contempt of Congress. So anyway, the outcome was somewhat predictable. Let's put it that way.
Susan Ferrecio, Washington Examiner, always a friend of the show. In fact, a frequent fill-in guest host here. And speaking of that, we always love to hear about what goes on in your household. Did your little munchkin sting you with any April Fool's jokes yesterday, Susan?
No, he wore a pair of fake glasses to school, though, which was pretty hilarious. He told everybody had to get glasses.
You're of course
fun.
You're of course talking about your husband and Fox News reporter. No, I'm kidding.
No, my 11-year-old.
That would have been good, though.
It would have been. That would have been funny.
Thank you, Susan. Good having you.
Okay, thanks a lot.